except nobody's here yet, which is understandable because it gave me that same message again about having to change the orientation of my phone. So I'm going to sit here and hope that somebody gets notification that it says now live. So I assume you're getting the same message. I am 4 minutes late, but it's not because I didn't try. I was on here on time. I'm going to just wait until somebody comes into the room. Well, somebody made it through. Hi, whoever is first. Oh, hi, Sandra. Nice to see you here. I couldn't get on again this time because it kept telling me to change the orientation. So I had to start from scratch. So hopefully a couple of people will join us and we can get started today. How was your day? We've been having really nice weather here most of the time. Oh, okay, people are starting to come in. So pretty soon we'll be able to get started. I wanted to begin today by saying I finally figured out how to get the community page back on my channel. Apparently, for some reason, it was turned off. Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad that it's that you're having a good day, or that things are going well. It's been a really strange time for me. I truly feel as if every day I wake up and I just feel like somebody needs to poke me in the back and just point me in the right direction, and I'll be headed somewhere. So we shall see. Okay, there were 4 people in the room. Somebody left, so I guess not too excited to see me. Anyway, so now that I set up the community page, you all can interact on that page. So if there's anything you want to talk about, if you want to share photos, or I think it even takes video, but I'm not sure. I know it definitely takes photos. So anytime you want to share something, feel free on there, because I think one of the great things about the group is the ability that we have, not only for everybody to interact with me or for me to interact with all of you, but for all of you to be able to interact with each other. And I think that's the best part of it. So let's get started with that. I'm actually going to post a picture. It's actually going to be a picture of a picture. So I'm going to do that. Oh, thank you so much. Happy to see you here. And yeah, so I'm going to, I want to ask, what are some of your favorite things? Some of the things that you just get a kick out of. Could be something that you live with. It could be something in your world. It could be something in your life that's not a physical thing, but something that makes you really happy and something that makes you feel as if it's something special to you. So I'm going to start with that in the on the community page, because I'm going to put up a photo of something that I get a big chuckle out of every time I see it. I'm not going to go into it here, but I will share it with you on the page. I've been doing an awful lot of watching of videos of cooking lately. I don't know why, but I have seen some incredible things and I'm learning things. I feel as if it doesn't matter what age we are, we can learn something new every day of our lives if we want to. And for me right now, I have this really great interest in cooking, and especially because of the air fryer and the fact that it's so fast. So I tend to go a lot to those recipes. But I have discovered, and probably a lot of you know, these 2 chefs who have massive channels on YouTube and are just wonderful. I've been watching lately Jean-Pierre. Are you familiar with him? And the other one is Jacques. I'm not sure if it's Pepin, but they're two French chefs who are delightful to watch. I've learned some really basic things that make me smile. The community page is on my channel. If you go to my channel page, it will show you that there's a community page, and you can post anything on the community page that you want to. So we can share things on there, and it's a great way for the group to share with each other. So I certainly encourage you to do that. I'm going to start. I'll either put it on tonight when I'm finished with this, or I'll do it tomorrow. But I think it's going to be something that we'll all enjoy, because I love having you here with me. I love sharing my life and my journey with you, but I really want you to be able to be engaged in it as well, and for you to share things that you care about, that are important to you, that make you smile, that make you concerned, whatever it is. So it's going to be there. So that's one thing. One of the things that I learned, first of all, Jean-Pierre always talks about one of the really important things when you're cooking is mise en place, which is, for those of you who might not know, I'm sure some of you do, is having everything in place before you start to prepare anything. I think that's actually a great idea for life. Be prepared when you're going to start to do something. Be prepared for it and have all the components that you need ready to go, so that it makes it easier for you when you start to do whatever it is. I was watching Jean-Pierre earlier today doing fish, and it looked so incredible. It really looked so good that I was excited to try it. You didn't see it, Sandy? Oh, give me a break. I'm going to have to find a way to get you access to it. I know I set up the page, and the page, I shouldn't say I know. I think it's visible. I'm not 100% sure. I will check it tonight. But I just set it up, and I put an initial thing on it. Let me see if I can find it on my other phone. Perhaps that's the way to check and see if, oh, darn. I have this problem with both my phones. It keeps trying to get me, it keeps giving me error messages about my mailbox. I'm not even trying to look at the mailbox, but it's not letting me go anywhere else. I'm really going to have to do something. It's not letting me off this page. No. Cancel. Okay. It's just not letting me do anything. All right, let me see if I can get onto the YouTube. This is me. If I go to, all right, now when I look at this, I don't know if you see the same thing, but when I look at it, it shows me to visit community. I don't know if you have the ability to look at the community settings. Viewer posts are on, and who can post? Subscribers can post. It tells me that if I use it on desktop, it'll give me more moderation settings, but it does exist. So I'll take a look at it and see. I wish I could see it as you do rather than just seeing it the way I do. So I'm not sure. I have to tell you, I was watching something before that really, it made me smile. It actually gave me a chuckle. There was a guy who was talking about being retired. As a matter of fact, I think it was, I'm not sure. He was talking about being retired, and somebody in the comments had written that he said, my wife asked, what are you doing today? And he said to her, nothing. And she said to him, you did that yesterday. And he said, but I wasn't finished. So I'm doing it again today. And I thought that was cute. So again, yes, if you are retired, you can certainly do whatever it is that you want to do. You went to subscriptions and then the page, and you couldn't find it, Sandy? I don't know. I don't know if it's specific to the lives. I think it's specific to the channel. And it says that you should be able to, I don't know. I'm having more trouble with my channel since I came back than I ever had before before I left. So it is amazing. Want to share with you some of the stuff that's going on with the car. I still have the rental car. I am supposedly going to get my car back sometime beginning of next week. The sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. The car that I'm driving is okay. It is pleasant enough to drive, except that it guzzles gas. If it ever made me delighted that I don't have a gas-powered car anymore, that is it. I do not. But it's really, really strange. I had a bizarre experience on the Parkway the other day. It was very frightening. I was in the right lane, fortunately. I do not, and I don't know if you are trying to get me to say something that I would prefer not to say or what this is about, but I absolutely do not know. So I was on the Parkway and I was headed somewhere. I was in the right lane and I was driving at normal highway speed. And all of a sudden, the car started to shimmy and shake. And it kept going slightly to the left, slightly to the right, slightly to the back and forth. And it scared the bejeebers out of me. It really scared the heck out of me. I did not know what was going on. I didn't know if something awful was going to happen. It finally stopped. And I tend to wonder now if it has something to do with if it has something to do with the line, keeping you in the lane. I was in the lane, but if it's that, I forgot what it's called, not lane assist, but whatever it is. Okay, thanks. So it did stop, but it was terrifying. I actually called the rental company and I asked them if I could switch cars because much as it's a pleasant car, it eats the lane assist. It's a horrible, horrible thing. I would never want it on my car. I think it's dangerous. The car also, it responds that way to a lot of things. For example, if I'm trying to get out of my driveway and I'm backing up and there is any car going across on the street behind me, it stops my car and it just jiggles it. And it's like it's throbbing. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. It makes me realize how much I love my car and I want it back. I really am, this is not a fun experience on any level whatsoever. The only really good thing about the car is it's got a ginormous trunk. So it's really good in terms of being able to put a lot of stuff in there. I will tell you that when I had gone to a couple of jobs that I had done, I had people, most people I find are very kind, and most people, when they see me, when I have the cane, they're accommodating. They will often come off the steps and they will often come toward the car, so making it easier for me. But I've had a couple of very strange comments, and I think it's indicative of the way people are in general about everything. When you are, when you're talking to people, some people don't think before they speak. One woman said to me as I walked up with the stuff, I couldn't park on the street. I had to park around the corner, and I went around, walked up to, she had bushes on the perimeter of her property, so that was her privacy fence. And when I passed it and I finally got to her walkway, she looked at me and she said to me, "Really? Really?" And I looked at her and I said, "It's called life." And and then I think, I don't know if she felt bad, but at that point she said, "Well, you know, I feel bad for you." And I said, "Don't feel bad for me. I'm fine." But it was interesting to me that people sometimes, as I say in every aspect of life, speak, what is that? They engage their tongue before they engage their brain. And I think it's not great. It was rude. And I had had this one other older woman who had actually, she was she was ordering booze. I don't know if she had started drinking before the stuff came to her, but she said to me, "They let you do this?" I am left speechless when somebody does something like that because it's totally unexpected to me. I think, first of all, I mean, there are many people in this world who have disabilities. Many people have disabilities that you can't see, and people have disabilities that you can see. And for people to presume that you're incapable of doing something based upon their prejudice of what your disability or incapacity at any point in time means to them, it's really strange. I also had another very odd experience. I've had a couple of really strange experiences lately, which I don't know. I think it's been odd out there. I don't know if you see it in your world, but I think it's been odd out there in terms of how people react to a lot of things. Yeah, Sandy, that's great. Sandy says I should have said I'm filling in for the wheelchair guy who called in sick. I'm amazed that people don't think first, because it is rude, but you never know if it's going to happen to you. At some point, something can happen to make your life difficult. And it's nice to know that there are ways that we can navigate our space in this world, no matter what we're going through. There are ways to handle it. And we can figure out how to make it work. And for somebody to have a negative kind of reaction to it, it can be difficult. But I had a couple of other really, really strange things. I had one guy. three orders, and they decide in what order they go. I have no input in that whatsoever. So this was late at night. It was my last drop-offs, and I really wanted to get home. I was tired. It was dark out. I'm not comfortable doing it in the dark, based upon the fact that you can't see the imperfections in the road as well. You can't see if they have issues at their property that is not as visually obvious at night, and especially when the people who are expecting things delivered and their house is in pitch darkness. I'm always astounded by that. I don't get it. It would seem to me, if you're going to have something delivered, turn the light on. It might be a good idea to help them to deliver to the right place. And I'm amazed at how many properties have no address on them. How can I possibly know if it's the right address if there's no number on the property? I know that that emergency personnel have always said that that was an issue, and it's really important if you have any kind of a problem, if you need an ambulance, if you need fire rescue, if there's anything like that, if you don't have an address, it's going to take them longer to get to the property, and it can have a really devastating effect. So it's really important. I think more people should have addresses on their house. So anyway, I had these 3 deliveries, and I managed to drop off the first one, and I got to the second one, and that was relatively, well, actually wasn't easy, because as I got to the second one, it was actually, that one was ice cream. The 2 last ones were ice cream, different types. So the guy had left in the notes, which I don't see until I get there, and the note said, there's no number on the house and it's difficult to park. Well, gee, thanks. That was a real big help. So I take a look. I don't see the address at all. And I go around the corner. There's no place to park on that whole street around the corner. So now I'm forced to go around another corner. Now I'm a block and a half away from the delivery in the dark, and I have to walk past another one of those live privacy fences. But apparently the people at this house maintain, I shouldn't say that, maybe they don't even maintain the inside of the hedges, which were taller than I was, but they don't maintain the outside, so it was sticking out into the very narrow path on the street, the sidewalk. So I'm leaning toward my right as I'm trying to walk past it to get to the street I need to get to. And the description that the guy left was, it's the corner house, and you'll see a driveway, and then you will see the house, but there's no number on it. So I go to the house, I walk up this narrow path, and I got, oh, that's good if you have numbers on the mailboxes. They should have it somewhere. They should really have it somewhere. So I bring the stuff up, I leave it on the top step, I take my picture, and I leave, and something in my gut said, check it out to make sure this is the right house. So I started walking farther away from where my car was to go to the next house. I didn't quite get there when a young kid, I would say a teenager, came walking past me and then walked up that pathway I had just come from. So since he was walking to the house where I left the stuff, I said to him, is this, I think the address, for argument's sake, let's say 125. So he said, no. He said, that's next door. And I said, oh, swell. So I was about to walk back around, and I realized that he was right there. And I said, could you do me a favor? Could you hand me the package there since you're right there? So he walked all the way around, brought me the package, and then he said to me, I live next door. I could bring it there if you want. And I said, that would be great. That would really be wonderful. So I was happy to have him do that. But as he walked away, I said to him, you really do live next door, don't you? Because my thought process was, if not, he could be stealing what looked like really, really good ice cream. The pickup was in a store where they have homemade ice cream. The place was mobbed. They had so many flavors and everything looked absolutely wonderful. And one of the things that the person ordered was a banana boat. So it had banana, 3 scoops of ice cream, and the toppings on it. It looked so good. I was salivating. I was feeling a little bit like Pavlov's dog. Then I headed to my third drop off, and that guy contacted me while I was driving there, and he said to me, I see you're not hesitating, but I see you're delayed. Is anything wrong? And I said, no. I said, they gave me 3 deliveries, and this is the way they routed it. I'm on my way to you now. And he said to me, but it's ice cream. It could be melted. So now I'm responsible for whether or not somebody's stuff is melted as I'm on my way to bring it to them in the dark when I'd rather be home. So I finally got to his street, which was a dark street, pretty street, but a dark street. And I took a look. The GPS brought me to this house. I stopped in front of the house, and it said, when it gets to the place, it says arrived. And it said arrived. So I got there and I said, oh no, it had a lot of stairs with no railing. So I took my cane and I walked up the stairs. I put the ice cream and the drink up on the top, took my photo, and left. No sooner got into my car that I got a message from the guy saying you dropped it at the wrong house. And I said, I thought it said your address. And he said, no. So I realized when I went back, because I had to go back up those stairs to retrieve it and bring it back down, that it turned out that the guy was next door. I mean, would have been nice if he had come out at that point, because it's not easy, believe me. And I said to him, I'll bring it right over to you. But you might have thought, since he was so concerned about the stuff melting, that he might have come out, he might have come down his stairs. And his stairs presented a different problem than the other one did, because he had a tree that kind of hung over, and it was not a weeping willow, but it had those draping kind of leaves, and I had to push it out of the way to get past it to go up the stairs to make it to his doorway. He didn't even open the door. He didn't even come out to get it. He knew that I was there. It just made no sense to me. So when I finished with that, I was so happy to just go home. And I said, whatever happens, I just want to go home. So I have made the decision that I'm going to try to work a whole lot harder on this stuff, because the other it's so difficult and it pays so little that it's not my preferred way of making life work, certainly at this stage of my life. So that's that story. Okay, I want to get back to the cooking for a minute, because by the way, do any of you know the 2 chefs that I mentioned, Jean-Pierre and Jacques Pepin, I think it is? They are absolutely wonderful, and I am feeling the need or the desire, at this stage of my life to really, oh, thank you so much, Brooke. I appreciate that. I actually do videos where I show how I do the makeup from time to time. I just did one. Yeah, I love Pepin also. And oh, Sandy, the Italian lady, is she a young woman? Because I started watching a young Italian woman who I was watching her make chicken parmesan, and I've got to make it using her recipe, except she makes it with homemade breadcrumbs. I am not, oh, that's the one. And at the end, she has her husband taste it. Her food looks wonderful. It really looks wonderful. And people in the comments were saying that they used her recipe and that it came out fantastic and they would never make it any other way again. So I definitely want to try that. So I have to buy that stuff. But I bought all of the vegetables again, and I'm going to do that, the roasted vegetables in the air fryer and see what happens with that. But I definitely I want to experiment with a lot of different things. I'm enjoying the challenge of it. I'm enjoying the creativity of it. And I'm enjoying having homemade food, which is really nice because I have to tell you I, I, I hesitate to say it because I really, really appreciate the ability to get the Meals on Wheels, but the food that they offer, it's changed. It went from one company to another. And I know they have to work within a budget and they have to do the best they can in terms of pricing. But the food is literally inedible. And very often I try to eat it and I wind up throwing a good bit of it out, or most of it out. Sandy is saying I make a few meals and put it in tin pans. I think actually might be a good idea for me to make some meals ahead of time and just then, I hate to freeze them though, because I really prefer to eat fresh food than frozen food. So I'm gonna have to try to figure that one out. But I am totally enjoying that process. I really am. I mean, even today, I actually took a tiny bit of video while I was making it. My mother-in-law used to make eggs with cheese and onions all the time, and I used to have that years ago when I was much younger. But I started to make it again now, and I'm enjoying it so much. I really am. By the way, I learned a few things. It's amazing. It doesn't matter how old or how young you are. You can learn something new every day of your life. Um, I don't use a pressure cooker. I really have never used a pressure cooker. I think I'm afraid of it. I don't own one. Sandy is saying she made salmon cakes, mashed potato, fresh steamed carrots. Oh, that sounds really good. Yeah, I want to make the candied carrots too, because I haven't had that in a long time. And those were so, so delicious. When I make those, I typically will steam them for a short while so they're par cooked. And then I put it in the pan and I'll do it with my honey and lemon and all of that. What I learned from Jean-Pierre, aside from the mise en place, which is a great idea, having everything there instead of, putting the ingredients together as you're starting to prepare it, it's better to have all the ingredients done first, so then you can mix it and get everything ready faster and have it work better. So I'm definitely going to try to do more of that. But one of the things that I learned, I know this sounds silly, and I'm sure a lot of you have known this for a very long time, but the purpose of clarified butter And I certainly have had that in a number of recipes, but I never understood the purpose of it, which he said was to get rid of the milk fat, because the milk fat in butter is what makes it burn at a lower temperature. So if you do the clarified butter, you can have the butter in the pan for a much longer time and it won't burn. So that was good for me to learn. But he was saying that when he uses it, and what he'll do is like if he's doing fish and he wants to bathe it in the clarified butter, at the end, he'll put, as he calls it, real butter in the pan to then give it the flavor of the full-bodied butter. So it's all interesting, and I'm enjoying the whole process of getting back to that. So that's good. But yeah, I just, I don't know, I'm trying really hard to keep all the pieces of my world intact. So it is what it is. I'm not doing that well some days, but there were a few things. Oh, okay. I have a question I want to ask you, and that is, do you have any particular regret about anything that you didn't do or something that you did do that you wish you hadn't? Because I've been seeing a lot about that lately, and I was thinking for myself, there is not a lot of regret that I have, because I really try to do whatever I can to make things work. If I don't, it isn't because I didn't try. I certainly do try, but there are times when I think, and I think as I'm working on a video that I'm going to be putting out, hopefully very soon, about so many of the things that change for us over time as we live this life, because so much about our life changes, and we have to change along with it. So it's, it's just something I was thinking about. Your hubby traveled, Sandy is saying your hubby travels, the kid traveled. You never had the urge until you saw. Really, really, Sandy? That's interesting to me, because would you, if you had the ability at this point to travel, would you want to do it? Or do you feel that that kind of has passed you by? I know I have most of my family, well, I would say all of my family, love to travel and travel extensively. My brother Marty and his wife and his son always traveled a lot. My brother Steve and his wife travel all over the world, and all of their kids travel. David has done a lot of traveling in the United States. He's not gone to Europe yet, but he has traveled all over the United States. Barbara Ann is saying, I have a regret that I worried too much in younger years, and I decided no more of that. It's a waste of time. Have you been able, Barbara, to not do it, to stop worrying? I know that I also used to worry a lot about things, and so many of the things that I worried about never came to pass. So it was all this wasted energy for something that never happened. Sandy is saying it's a different time. He was a sky marshal. My kids now went to Italy, England, Greece. Yeah. Yeah. Barbara, I think some of it has to do with that we learn as we get older that so much of our energy is wasted on worrying. I know I don't worry half as much. And the interesting thing is, I have so much more to worry about than in reality than I had when I was younger. But I used to worry about everything. And now, even my health, I just don't even worry about my health unless I'm faced with something that I have no choice but to deal with. When I'm in between, I am not going to spend my time worrying about what's going to happen next. I'm going to wait and see what happens and live the life that I have every moment in time for right now. And yeah, I'm with you, Barbara, trying to take it one day at a time. That's the best that we can do. Sandy, you're right. We were all busy raising family. Nobody traveled or moved. That's true. I mean, I know some people who moved a lot, but when I was young, I mean, when we were apartment dwellers, which I was for much of my life, nobody I knew lived in a house. Everybody lived in it. Well, that's not true. Some of my mother's friends lived in houses, but so many people that we knew lived in apartments. And I think it's different today. I think with the housing situation, especially with apartments, I think it's a lot more transitory than it used to be because apartment living is so expensive. I don't know how it is all over the country, but I know in many parts of the country that rents are very high. In New York, they're astronomical. I mean, now in Long Island, rentals for a one-bedroom apartment can go from $2,500 on the low end up to 35 in the newer buildings, 4,700. Some of there is an absolutely beautiful building in Westbury along a very commercial strip, but they turned it into this absolutely lovely building, and a studio in that building is $4,700 a month. It's crazy. It really is crazy. So I think because of that, there are so many people who probably don't live in apartments, certainly in apartments like that, for an extended period of time. I would think that they try to live some other way. And I think now with some of the alternatives that they have, like tiny houses, like smaller homes, I know there have always been mobile homes that some people have lived in. So there are other options available, but housing has become a really challenging thing for a lot of people. And I've seen so many people in my quest to learn things online who live in their cars or who live in a van or who live in an SUV. They live without the basic human necessities. They do it because they have no choice. It's better than living with no home, nothing to protect from the elements. And we all know that that's a huge problem with all the people who really are homeless. So it's a huge problem. It really is a huge problem. And yeah. So yeah, for me, as far as travel goes, I have never your old complex went condo. Her apartment was on a stabilized rent of 400, unheard of. That apartment sold for 300,000 and 1,000 maintenance. Yeah, my old building that I lived in, and that was the start of my process to get into a home because the apartment that I lived in, the building went co-op. And when it went co-op, it was relatively early in the process of buildings going co-op here. And I was terrified to buy because I had a one-bedroom apartment and I thought I would be stuck with it for the rest of my life. Because whoever thought that somebody would buy a one-bedroom apartment, or at least it never occurred to me. So they had insider pricing when they first were converting the building because they needed to get a certain percentage, might have been 35% of residents to agree to it and agree to buy into it for it to go co-op. So it was the very, very last day that you could buy it at that low insider price. And your inside price was 40,000. So you wound up buying it, and or did you move out before? I imagine you bought it, Sandy. Oh, you didn't buy it. I went on the last day that they had it available, and mine was really inexpensive. It was a one-bedroom. I think it was 18 something. I don't remember 18 what. But that was a lot of money to me back in the day. David was young. I was, taking care of him on my own. And I had so much that I had to deal with that it was a hard thought to make a commitment to do something like that on something that I didn't know if it was going to be a good investment. So at 5 o'clock on a Friday, they were no longer going to be available at that price. At 5 to 5, I was still pacing back and forth in front of the office because I was so afraid to do it. But at that point, I was afraid to not do it because I knew the price was going up. And if I wanted to try to do something, that was the only time. So I wound up going in, and by 5 o'clock on that Friday, I now was in process for owning shares in a corporation, which is what co-op is really, the co-op life really is. It is not owning real estate. So Sandy is saying hubby lived there when we split on a frozen rent of $400. They offered him to move and give him $25,000. He moved to my daughter's home. That was a gift, and they did that a lot of times just to get people out. So yeah, that was really good. But then my mother had moved into the building. There were 3 buildings that were attached. It was actually a 12-building complex that I lived in. And there were 3 buildings on each side of the street, and then the ones that backed those buildings on the streets around the corner in either direction. So I said to my mother, buy it, and I think it's going to be a good thing. I mean, now here I was, brave soul that I was at the last minute getting into it, but my mother was afraid to do it, and she didn't do it. Ultimately, a little bit of time went by, and I started to think about buying a house and getting into my own home. And I used to talk to my mother about that, and she really didn't want me to move because she loved having me in the next building. She had a very close relationship with David. She spent a lot of time with him, and it was wonderful for him and for her. She lived with her sister, and they lived in that next building. So what happened, my mother lived in the next building. So it took a long time for her to be convinced to buy the apartment, but ultimately she did buy. And when I finally, this is really encapsulated, or when I made the decision to move, it was in Queens. It was in Queens. Oh, originally my mother lived in the Bronx. They lived in a 4-family house that was my grandparents' house. But then she moved out to Queens to be nearer to me, and they sold. Yeah, we were at the periphery. It When I first moved into the apartment in Queens, the renting agent called it Forest Hills, but I found out after I was living there for some time it was really the periphery, so it was more Rego Park. I think around the corner was Forest Hills, but it was a nice area, and it wound up really going up in value in a very short time. In less than a year after that, oh, okay, Alley Pond, Union Turnpike, yeah. Was it an elevator building, or was it garden apartments? My my mother eventually did buy, she paid extra for it, but she decided when I was looking for a house, sometimes she would say she was going with me, and sometimes she would say she was not. She was going to stay. So it was very hard for me to look because I didn't know what I was looking for. Was I looking for something that she would live in, or was I looking for something smaller that I was going to be in alone? So I wound up looking at this house ultimately, and she wound up selling her place. And the places that we bought, I paid 18 something, as I say. I think it was 18.7 or something like that, 18.8. Yes, very, very crowded, that Rego Park area. And my mother wound up buying hers for, I want to say, 22 something or 23 something, because it had gone up. My mother's apartment was a little bit larger than mine square footage wise, but mine had a terrace. Mine faced the front of the building, hers faced the back. When we went to sell, I sold first. I put my apartment, I put an ad in the New York Times. I had people come in. Don't, yeah, I think I did an open house that first weekend, and strangely enough, I had a dog at the time who chose that moment to give birth. She was giving birth as I was preparing for my open house. I had to put her outside on the terrace and let her give birth out there. I felt terrible. And it was a terrible thing. She had a lot of puppies. I don't remember how many, but I don't know if there was 6 or 7 or 8. They all died but one, and I felt guilty for years that somehow my putting her out on the terrace, I did put a bed out there, but I mean, and it was not. I mean, it was nice weather. It was during the spring or summer that I sold. So anyway, we wound up on that first day. Most people walked in and said, "Oh, this is lovely. This is charming," and so I felt really good about it. I said, "Okay, so there is a market for a one-bedroom apartment," and I wound up two pe. David did go to Forest Hills High. Yeah, he did. And he loved it. He loved it there. As a matter of fact, when he formed, when he formed a film company, they called it Greengrass Productions because he and his friends all used to go sit in this area of green grass near the school where they used to play and hang around all the time. But I wound up selling my apartment from that first group of people. But it wasn't all the people who said how beautiful it was and how lovely and how charming. It was one of the two people who said things like, Does that come down? Is that staying? Can that go? One of those people bought the apartment. So our investment, which wound up being a total of just over $40,000 for the two apartments, wound up bringing us over $150,000 for the two of them. Mine sold for, I think it was 82 and change, and hers sold for 75. And we were absolutely delighted because I was able to get into the house and not have a huge mortgage. Because I went from, Sandy, you talking about the fact that the rent stabilized, that it was $400. Mine was $325 before it went co-op. And the $325 included gas and electric. So I went from that to suddenly paying a mortgage, paying gas and electric and water and taxes and all of these things, and it was absolutely terrifying. So I think maybe next time I'll talk to you a little bit about what it was like when I first moved in here and how different life was living in a house. But it's a decision I never regretted. A lot of my friends at the time thought I was crazy. They said, "Why would you want to move into a house now?" And I said to them all, I said, because the very worst thing that can happen if I do this is that I'll hate it. And if I hate it, I can move back. And if I move back, I'll probably make money on the house that I buy. And if that's the worst thing that can happen to me, then what do I have to lose? And it turned out to be a wonderful, wonderful thing. My life changed in so many ways, so much for the better after I moved into the house. And that was when, whoops, wow, I don't know what the heck I just did.